It was the winter in 1964. An icy frost had covered the country, promising a harsh and unforgiving winter. My uncle, Patrick, had just returned from his worldly travels, without a bride, much to my mother's dismay, even though he was well into his 40s. My father described him as free-spirited and eccentric, too rebellious for anything as conservative as marriage. Today, we would simply call him gay. He always had a soft spot for me, my uncle. I was never quite sure why. Perhaps he appreciated my desire for literature and art, or perhaps he sympathized with the fact we'd both survived a childhood with my mother. I still get shivers down my spine every time I see a wooden spoon. It was the winter in 1964. My uncle invited me to stay with him in his castle by Glendalough Lake. An ageing ruin by most standards, but to me, it was a palace like no other. I could work there, fulfill my dream of becoming a writer. It was the winter in 1964 that I fell in love for the first time. Oh, I laugh when I think of myself before then. A smug young adult who thought an inappropriate fumble at the local dance was true love. I wouldn't recognise that boy if I met him now. Naive and innocent, unable to even comprehend the type of passion that can lead one to monstrous devotion. It was the winter in 1964 that I killed a man.
Nervous?
No, I'm fine. I just can't find...
Because there's no need to be nervous.
Why would I be nervous? It's just an old person's home.
I don't know, you might have a dirty grandpa situation on your hands.
Nick, don't say that. They're all going to be like 80.
You could still be a pervert at 80.
They're not going to be perverts.
Of course they will be. Every family has a creepy grandparent who gets a bit handsy after a few Irish coffees. And you know why? Because when you reach a certain age, you're no longer considered a predator. Instead, it's cute and funny. It's as if we're all so relieved that they're not actually dead that, you know, a bit of sexual assault is seen as nothing more than a zest for life.
How terrible.
Terrible? Personally, it's the dream. I can't wait until all my racism, sexism and vulgar language is seen as nothing more than quirky.
Because now everyone just thinks you're an asshole.
Yeah, but I'm your asshole.
That's disgusting.
And if I was 80, it would have been cute.
Oh, found them. How do I look?
Perfectly assaultable. Oh. So, big first day?
Shouldn't be too bad. I mean, it's a nursing home, not a hospital, so there shouldn't be too much medical stuff. I'd say it'll be mostly paperwork and fetching cups of tea.
Listening to dinosaurs babble on about the good old days.
Oh, the joys.
You know, you don't have to take this job. If you don't want to, I mean.
Nick.
I can cover the bills for a few months. Why do you look for something else?
It's not a bad gig.
My parents have offered to help me.
We're not taking their money.
They're just trying to help.
I know. But if we let them pay for it, they'll expect us to do things their way. And don't you want to do things our own way?
I just want to get married.
And we will. Now that I've got a proper job, we can save. And in a few years, we can do everything our own way, without expecting anything from anyone. Isn't that better?
Yeah, I guess.
So, my boss said there's some pretty interesting characters at this place.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Theodore Byrne?
Who?
He's a novelist, won a bunch of awards and everything. I started one of his books last week. It's actually really good.
What's it about?
It's like this supernatural murder mystery thing.
It's a horror book.
Yeah, I guess.
You're reading a horror book.
Yes?
But you hate horror.
I don't hate horror.
When we went to that haunted house in Dublin, you were shitting yourself.
I got a fright.
You cried for a full hour afterwards.
Well, that fake clown was traumatizing.
He was 15 years old.
Oh, Theodore's books aren't ghosts jumping out from dark corners scary. They're more mature, more psychological.
Are you fangirling?
Oh, maybe a little. He's been published in over 15 different countries. It's fairly impressive.
Is he still right?
I don't know. His last book was released like 15 years ago, so I don't think so.
Maybe he's run out of ways to scare people.
Mm.
Shit, I better go. Love you.
Oh, love you too. Bloody dog. Good morning, Mr. Byrne. My name is Danny, and I'm one of the new nurses here. Now, Mary said that you like to go for a walk by the canal most mornings and then have a tea afterwards in the breakfast room. But it's actually started raining cats and dogs out there. And I see from your file that you're suffering from a mild dose of the flu. So I wondered if you wanted to have tea first and then wait for the rain to stop. But if you are dead set on the walk, I'm sure I can find us some umbrellas and waterproof coats. Now, Mary hasn't actually given me the official tour yet, but I'm sure it won't take me long to find the coat cupboard. Oh, but then again, maybe there's an alternate universe hiding behind one of those cupboard doors, and when I open it, I'll fall in and be lost forever. That would be a terrible first day on the job, wouldn't it be, Mr. Byrne?
I'm sorry, I didn't get any of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to speak louder?
No, I'm not deaf. Just slow down.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I speaking too fast?
Everything about you is too fast.
Right. Sorry.
So, you're new.
Yeah, my name's Danny.
Danny?
Yeah.
So, are you one of those boys that's a girl but not actually a girl?
No, Danny's a nickname, short for Danielle.
Got it.
Do I look like a boy to you?
I don't want a cup of tea, thank you.
Sorry?
You offered me a cup of tea somewhere in that rant, didn't you?
Yes.
I don't want one, thank you.
Right. Well, do you want to go for a walk then?
It's raining,
It is.
so I'll give it a miss.
Right. Well, if you don't need anything,
Your
then...
ring?
Sorry?
It's very beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, my boyfriend gave it to me.
Don't you mean fiancé?
Sorry?
You're wearing it on your wedding finger.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. My fiancé gave it to me. I'm just not used to saying it, you know.
It's recent then, the engagement.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Can I see it?
Yeah, yeah.
Jeez, that's uncanny.
Sorry?
The ring, it's exactly like the one I gave to my wife.
Really?
Your fiancé isn't a grave robber, is he?
Jesus, no! No.
I'm joking.
Oh, right, yeah, sorry. Obviously. Sorry.
It's a funny coincidence, though. God, looking at that ring does bring back the most wonderful memories. I was only 22 and I'd only known my darling Marie a few short weeks, but I couldn't have been more sure about anything. So, how did your fiancé... Oh, I didn't have the physical ring when I proposed, though.
No?
Oh, no, it was totally a spur-of-the-moment thing. So how did your fiancé do it?
Do what?
Propose.
Oh, well, he had it planned for months. Not that I noticed. I'm sometimes a bit blind to these things. Anyway, he convinced me to climb to the top of this mountain in Kerry with him. He got me up at some ungodly hour so that we would be at the top as the sun rose. Oh, it was beautiful. The world just seemed so big and never ending below us. And then I turned and he was down on one knee, just offering his whole world to me.
He's a romantic.
Terribly.
I share that flaw. The sun was rising when I proposed too, but we weren't up a mountain, no. No, we were outside my uncle's castle, staring out over the lake, as small flakes of snow floated to the ground. It was beautiful. And it was made even better by the fact I just killed her first husband.
Wait, what? Did you just say killed?
Do you know what? I'd love a cup of tea now. It was 1964. I had just escaped the confinement of my family home and run off to the country with the financial and emotional support of my generous uncle, Patrick.
Who is this strapping young man I see before me? Surely it can't be my nephew Theo.
Thanks for letting me stay for the winter.
No, I should thank you. Spending your days reading, sleeping and drinking seems far less frivolous when one has someone else to share it with.
My uncle Patrick was my mother's baby brother, completely irresponsible but unexpectedly successful. He worked for an Irish whiskey company that exported to far more countries than I even knew existed back then. He travelled a lot and rarely settled in Ireland for long, but this particular winter he'd rented a small castle by Glendalough Lake.
I look forward to this romantic masterpiece you're going to write.
Masterpiece seems far-fetched. If the thing exists by the end of the year, I'll be happy.
Now, don't say yourself short, my boy. It's an awfully Irish thing to do and terribly unattractive. Do you drink cognac?
I've never tried it. Oh, most of that first night is blurry to me now, but I remember the vague details. I mean, before that winter, I thought I knew how to drink. A few Guinness in the local pub, followed by a game of darts or maybe pool. But Uncle Patrick, he could really drink. I mean, that night we discussed art, literature, any other passion that jumped into our heads. Patrick should have been a poet. The way he strung words together was so eloquent and effortless, it was impossible to not feel like a double left-footed oaf around him. At first, I was intimidated by him, by what he'd seen and what he'd done. But 4 glasses of cognac on an empty stomach makes one brave, and soon embarrassment was replaced by bold curiosity. I wanted to know everything he'd done, and Patrick, being a natural storyteller, was more than happy to oblige. His stories ranged from the fascinating...
In Paris, I met a man who was a professional card counter. No one could beat this man at a game of blackjack. He was banned from all professional games, but he continued to play under the alias Sir I Count-A-Lot.
To the fantastical.
In Istanbul, I met a woman who swore to me she could predict the future. She predicted that JFK would not survive Christmas. She predicted his death, but perhaps she was involved in his death. She did seem to know a lot of IRA members. Either way, amazing woman.
to the ridiculous.
In Amsterdam, I saw a unicorn. I swear to you, my boy, a real-life unicorn.
I listened contentedly, enjoying the warmth of the fire as we both relaxed. His voice was soothing, and I think I was just about to drift off when suddenly he suggested we step outside.
Snow is coming.
Yes, the farmers predicted it'll be the coldest winter we've ever had. The cold was welcomingly refreshing, sobering up my fuzzy mind. We stood in silence for a while, admiring the beauty of the lake and wood around us. Patrick broke the quiet, suddenly interested in me.
So you wish to be a writer, then?
Yes, I do.
And what do you wish to write about?
Well, relationships, life, romance, love.
Love?
Yes.
How wonderfully brutal.
Is it?
It is. Have you been in love, Theo?
I believe so.
You haven't?
Sorry?
You haven't. A man who hesitates is a man who has never been in love.
I had a girlfriend back home for 3 years.
So?
We were engaged at one point.
But you didn't marry her, did you? Marriage proves nothing. I've met the most sweet and dear people who've done the most monstrous things for love. Love brings out a terrifying viciousness in us all. Love is ugly. But you're right about one thing.
What?
It's a good thing to write about.
What is that?
I thought it was only a legend.
What?
A scary story the locals told.
What are you talking about? What is that?
It's the Grey Wolf.
A wolf?
No. The Grey Wolf. A mystical creature that has lived by the lake for, well, forever.
Do wolves frequent this area?
You don't understand, my boy. This is no ordinary wolf. Molly, down in the local pub, told me the story. Apparently, a number of years ago, a young woman named Alice visited these parts during the summer. She was a painter, and she particularly enjoyed sketching and painting rural landscapes. During her time here, she became particularly fond of this river. The multitude of colours as they reflected against its water, the distant trees as they shivered in the wind. One afternoon, she became so absorbed in her work that she didn't realise how late it was becoming. The sun had begun to set when she finally finished packing up and decided to head back to the B&B where she was staying. As she packed away her equipment, she became aware of a dark figure watching her from across the river. She couldn't see properly in the dim light, but she believed the figure to be that of a man. He stared at her intently, his sharp blue eyes unsettled Alice to her core. The path that led back to the B&B was a dark and lonely road. Both sides of the trail were engulfed with gnarled, dead trees with black branches which hung overhead, making the path even darker. As Alice walked home, she became aware of the presence of a creature following her. She braved a glance over her shoulder and saw that the man from the river was behind her. She became instantly afraid, did her best to calm herself, deciding instead to call out to the man. "What time is it?" she asked politely, but the man did not answer. Alice walked as fast as she could, doing her best to not let her fear show. She stole another look at the man. He licked his lips, salivating hunger behind his wicked blue eyes. The path they walked on was remote. If this man was to attack her, Alice could scream and scream until her lungs would burst and no one would hear her. Fearing she would be unable to outrun the man, Alice called out in terror, "Who are you? Why are you doing this?" Just then, the moon escaped from behind a cloud, and Alice got a proper look at the creature that was behind her. The thing that was following her was no man. It wasn't even human. Although it walked on 2 feet like a man, it was much taller and covered from head to toe in a grey, shaggy fur. Its eyes glowed ice blue and its mouth was open. Its long tongue hung to one side, revealing 2 rows of sharp, gleaming fangs. For a horrifying moment, Alice froze in terror as the predator approached her slowly. Just then, she remembered her torch. Turning it on, she shone the beam in the creature's face. It halted in its tracks and cringed, covering its eye with one hairy paw, and then simply vanished into thin air. Alice ran back to the B&B. Bedraggled and breathless, she told the owners of everything that had happened to her, and much to her amazement, they believed every single word. Not long before, they told her, a strange skeleton had been found submerged in the lake. It appeared to be the body of a man, but the head was that of a wolf. Alice had just seen the ghost of a werewolf.
Perhaps we should go inside.
Yes, it's suddenly quite cold, isn't it? I know.
You know what?
I've got such good taste.
What?
The ring.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah. It's stunning. Frankly, I'm surprised you picked it.
What's that supposed to mean?
Just that picking jewellery isn't one of your strengths.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The yellow bracelet you got me for my 21st.
That was gold.
It was yellow. Or the dolphin necklace.
I thought it was a bit different.
But the worst, the absolute worst, has to be the purple earrings you got me for our 5-year anniversary.
And what was wrong with those?
One word. Purple.
Some people like purple.
And some people like Nazism. It doesn't make it right.
So I've gotten it wrong the odd time.
Most of the time.
But the ring?
The ring you got perfect.
So, how was it the first day?
Oh, it was grand.
Oh, that bad?
I didn't say bad.
You said grand, which is worse than bad.
Oh, it was fine. It was mostly just paperwork and cleaning, really.
What's your boss like?
She's grand.
Ha, a bitch then.
Oh, I didn't say that. But yeah, she is a bit. There's very little to do, but if she catches you sitting down for even a second, she barks at you like a banshee. I actually found myself making up things to do. I cleaned the kitchen, bathroom, I even descaled the kettle, which, trust me, really needed to be done. Oh, and then, in the afternoon, I was chatting to the sweetest old lady, Alice, who used to be a professional painter, did loads of well-known rural landscapes. Anyway, she was telling me that she can't paint anymore because she gets terrible shakes. So I suggested to the bitch that we look at Alice's medication, see if there's anything we could do to help. She lost it, told me I hadn't a clue what I was talking about. An honours degree in nursing, and apparently all I'm capable of is bleaching toilets and fetching cups of tea.
Do you have the bitch's email?
Yeah?
Give it to me. I'll sign her up to a load of fetish porn sites.
Oh, you can't do that.
By tomorrow morning, her inbox will be full of gimp masks and furry dating websites.
I love you.
So, did you get to meet your hero, Theodore Byrne?
I did.
And what was he like?
He was strange.
Strange. How?
Like, he said strange things.
Writers are always saying strange things.
Yeah, but he said something really strange. He told me he killed his wife's first husband.
What?
I know.
Did he actually say that?
Yeah.
And he wasn't describing one of his books or something?
I don't think so.
Well, was he joking?
Maybe. He did have a very strange sense of humour.
It's a weird thing to joke about, though. Well, what else did he say?
Nothing. I tried to ask him about it, find out if he was joking or not. We just kept going on about a winter that he spent in his uncle's castle in Wicklow.
Castle? Fancy.
I was with him for over an hour and he just kept talking about how him and his uncle would sit outside in the evenings drinking cognac. And then...
What?
He told me this story about a werewolf.
A werewolf.
A ghost werewolf.
He's pulling your leg.
He has to be.
Or he's lost it. I mean, he spent his life writing horror stories. Now he thinks he's in one of them.
I don't know. He seems with it. Oh, he has to be joking with me.
Has to be.
But it's the way he said it. It was so matter of fact, as if it was something that just had to be done, like getting your teeth cleaned.
Oh yeah, dental hygiene and murder goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
So how was your day?
Well, there were no declarations of murder, but there was a ghost story.
Really?
Must be something in the air.
Ooh. So who told it to you?
Sarah.
I can't imagine
Don't.
she could tell a ghost story.
What's that supposed to mean?
She's thick.
Danny.
She is. Do you not remember at the Christmas party when she showed up with her dress inside out?
Oh yeah.
And when I tried to discreetly point it out to her, she's like, "It's called fashion, Danny." I mean, if at 29 years old you are incapable of dressing yourself.
Forgot about that.
Anyway, what was the story?
What?
The ghost story.
Oh yeah. It's long.
Is it good?
Yeah,
Well,
actually.
then tell me.
Maybe another time. I'm tired.
Did it have a title?
The Missing Bride.
It's easy to decide you want to write something great. The hard thing is actually doing it. In the first few weeks of that winter, I did my best to come up with stories of love and lust. I quizzed my uncle extensively, knowing his life experience was far superior to mine. But his stories weren't my own. And when I tried to put them to paper, they seemed to lose any sort of life. It didn't help that I couldn't think of anything but the grey wolf. After my uncle told me about it, I found myself obsessing about the creature. I fantasized about his blue eyes and his shaggy coat. I could no longer sleep, my mind too disturbed by the mythical monster. I began to sketch the grey wolf. Now, I'm no artist, I never enjoyed drawing before, but for days I found myself doing nothing but trying to recreate the image that was burned into my head. I was never happy with what I'd drawn, so I would do it again and again, each time with more detail, more precision. I convinced myself if I could recreate the image perfectly just once, then this evil creature would stop haunting my mind. But it didn't work. And instead I was left with endless sketches of a creature that probably didn't exist. But there was one thing I noticed. After every drawing I did, the wolf looked less like a beast and more like a man. Uncle Patrick claimed to have no memory of the story he told me. He insisted there was no Molly in the local pub and that this legend was simply my drunken imagination. But I wouldn't accept his dismissals, so I pushed him, asking endless questions about the grey wolf, until he snapped, demanding I never speak to him of the creature again. Now, I'd never seen my uncle angry before, but his rage isn't what unsettled me. It was the fear I could see in his eyes. He composed himself quickly, apologizing for his outburst. He offered me sleeping pills that he had purchased abroad, in the hopes they might bring me some peace in the long wintry night. But they didn't work. If anything, they made me fantasize about the grey wolf more. I stopped taking them, afraid they might warp my mind even more than it already was. For a while I wasn't sure if anything could end my obsession, that my mind was now cursed. But that was only until I met her. Hello.
Hello?
Who are you?
This snow is absolutely apocalyptic. I promise you, my dear, this place isn't always so grim. Ah! I see you've met my nephew. Theo, this is Marie, the wife of an old college friend of mine who I thought was travelling with you this evening.
He'll come in his own time.
Typical Sebastian, sticks to no man's schedule but his own. Well, I'm glad you've arrived, my dear. Would you like a drink?
That would be lovely, thank you.
Theo?
Yes, thank you. That night, a new obsession began for me. One that would live for much longer and take me on a much darker journey than I could have ever imagined.
Afternoon, Mr. Byrne.
Theo. I prefer Theo.
Right, sorry. Would you like your tea?
It was the eyes. There was nothing human in the eyes. They were black and never-ending. And when I looked into them, I realized I was seeing evil for the first time.
Theo, are you okay?
Sorry.
Was that a line from one of your novels?
You're not wearing your ring today.
Shit. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I've heard the word shit before.
I know, but some people would be offended.
I've spent my life writing about murderers and monsters, but yeah, swearing offends me.
Really?
No.
Oh.
So, where is your ring?
Oh, I must have left it at home.
Oh, trouble in paradise?
No.
Oh, no, look,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean Marie found me funny, I forget that no one else does.
Is Marie?
Is she what?
Never mind. Tea.
Actually, no thanks, I'm feeling a little unwell.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't sleep last night.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Was there something that made you uncomfortable? Was the room too warm?
No. I'm an insomniac.
Oh. I'm so sorry. I seem to have missed that on your file. Are you on any medications for it?
No.
Oh, well, we'll have to see if we can get the doctor to prescribe you some.
No.
Are you sure? Insomnia can be treated very well with certain medications.
Look, I've been an insomniac since my early 20s. I've tried every pill imaginable. I've tried reflexology. I've tried homeopathic medication. I've tried meditation. I even tried some crazy witch doctor fella who danced around me naked, chanting what sounded like angry German. I gave up long ago trying to cure it. I don't even bother telling doctors about it anymore.
Well, medicine is always changing and evolving. You may find something that's very effective if you're willing to try.
Can you give me a pill that would stop me from dreaming?
Dreaming?
Well, nightmares specifically, but I'd be more than happy to never dream again if that was possible.
Well, I'm not sure if there's any medication that can do that. Do you have many nightmares?
Only one. I can tell you about it if you like.
Okay.
Well, every time I close my eyes, I see the same thing. A man lies alone on a grand wooden four-poster bed. He's still wearing the clothes he travelled in that day. Tweed blazer over a blue shirt tucked neatly into cream slacks. His hair is perfectly kept, even though he didn't expect to meet anyone, revealing how truly vain he is. His hands are so soft, exposing a life of leisure and frivolousness. But when he grips his fingers into a fist, the sharp claws rip into his skin. The once cream sheets are covered in blood. They've nearly turned black as it gushes out of his open chest, thick and warm. His body convulses in agony as his mouth gapes open. He's unable to scream. Fear and impending death silencing any cries that try to escape from his lips. His eyes plead with me for help, begging me to relieve him from the horror he's enduring. I don't know why I'm there, or how I got there, but all I do is silently watch him die, never breaking eye contact as he slips into the void of death. When I finally do look away, I notice that there's a knife in my hand, and it's stained with his blood. Would you like to hear more?
Yes.
Nights are painfully long and cripplingly lonely when you can't sleep. Your mind takes you to strange places. You find yourself thinking about things you never have before. I started looking at my life in a new way. The things that had happened to me before seemed trivial and unimportant, while everything that happened in the present, especially at night, seemed heavy with meaning. One night, as I was walking through my uncle's grounds, I noticed a heavy fog descend on the water. I found myself transfixed by the sight. It was eerily beautiful. The hair stood up on the back of my neck, and without thinking, I walked towards the edge of the water. I stared intently at the fog. For a second, I was sure I could see the silhouette of something coming towards me. I wasn't afraid. I was hypnotized by whatever lay beyond that fog. So I took off my shoes and socks, placing them neatly to one side. I could no longer feel the cold as the snow crunched under my bare feet. I didn't think about what I was doing. Oh, as the ice-cold water tickled my toes, I heard it.
You're not about to kill yourself, are you?
Her voice breaks my trance and the ridiculousness of the situation hits. I shuffle away from the water, unsure of what she actually said. The cold begins to burn my toes, so I quickly put my socks and shoes back on.
It would be terribly unfair of you to kill yourself here. It's not what an appreciative guest would do, is it?
Kill myself?
Show me your pockets.
What?
Open your pockets. I want to see them.
What are you looking for?
Stones.
They're empty.
I can see that. So what were you doing then? A midnight dip in a frozen lake? Accidentally drowning yourself seems even more tragic than suicide.
How is that more tragic?
Suicide is a choice. A bad choice, I believe, but at least it's a choice. An accidental death is just ridiculous and, to be honest, utterly embarrassing.
I was just wetting my toes.
Strange.
Is it?
Very.
Look, I wasn't about to kill myself.
Good. I didn't think there was a murderer in you.
Marie had been staying with my Uncle Patrick for more than a week, but up until now we hadn't spent any time together alone. Her husband Sebastian had still to join us, much to Patrick's barely held anxiety. Patrick pressed Marie on when Sebastian would be joining us, but she seemed utterly unconcerned with the whereabouts of her new husband. She preferred to talk about her life before marriage, about how her father worked on a farm and how she'd learned to ride horses before she could even walk. She was enchanting, and I could listen to her for hours and hours. But tonight, she seemed different. Her words had a dark honesty to them. Murder and suicide aren't the same thing.
Aren't they? They both take a life.
Yes, but someone who's trying to kill themselves isn't trying to hurt anybody.
What a simplistic way to look at it. I think there can be sadness in murder and rage in suicide. I think there can be boredom in both too.
Boredom?
Definitely. My husband loves to hunt. Rifle shooting mostly. One day he insisted that I come with him to load his gun or something ludicrous like that. It was a wet, miserable day, and for hours we walked with no prey in sight. We were searching for stags, a big beast that he could boast about later. But the clever animals stayed far away from us. Frustrated and irritated, Sebastian was about to give up. But then we saw her. A beautiful doe. She was small, only a baby really. Her petite feet barely left a trail in the wet grass. She looked at us with a cautious curiosity, and her twitching nose made me smile. I jumped with fear at the sound of the gunshot. My heart pumped wildly and my breath shortened. A moment or two had passed before I realized what he had done. She lay lifeless on the grass, eyes still open, blood pouring from her shoulder where the bullet had ripped through her soft fur. The sight of her filled me with despair, my body convulsed with grief and horror. Sebastian. He shrugged, not even bothered to take the body home with us. As a doe isn't as impressive as a deer. Oh, but he was somewhat glad that he got to kill something. Well, it's funny, isn't it? The things that are easy to talk about at night. I mean, imagine discussing the differences between murder and suicide over mid-afternoon tea as the birds sing and children play by the water. We'd struggle through the words, fumbling through formalities and manners.
I can't imagine that with you.
You can't imagine me having manners.
No. I can't imagine you fumbling through words, afraid to discuss sensitive topics.
I thought writers were observant.
What do you mean?
Isn't it obvious I'm always avoiding sensitive topics?
So, why are you out here?
I fancied a midnight dip.
Really?
No, of course not. I couldn't sleep. I'm not a madman like you.
Look, I was only...
Wetting your toes, yes, you've said. How risque.
Risque?
Sounds it.
Does it?
What's your novel about? Patrick tells me you're creating a great work of fiction while you're here.
Uncle Patrick is too kind.
He said it was a romance.
Ugh, it was.
Was.
It's become complicated. It's full of complex emotions that I'm not quite sure I even understand.
So it's about life then?
Yeah, I guess. She stared up at me intently, unembarrassed and full of intrigue. I was desperate to kiss her, but then I remembered the gold band locked onto her finger. So, how long have you been married?
A couple of months. There wasn't a proper ceremony or anything.
Those can be tedious.
They're also for people who are actually in love.
Oh, I'm sorry
For what?
that you don't love him.
It's funny. Most people are sorry that he doesn't love me.
I find it hard to be sorry for a man like that.
Why?
Because if he doesn't love you, then clearly he's some sort of monster. We talked for hours. She told me about her husband, about how she thought he was grand and worldly when they first met, but she quickly learned he was cruel and thoughtless. But by that point it was too late, as she was already pregnant. They married quickly to avoid scandal. Marie told me she cried all day. She tried to care for him in the beginning. She may have been forced into her vows, but she took them seriously. But Sebastian was a drunken brute who cared only for his own selfish needs. One night, he burst into their home late, pale and his lips bleeding. He'd been fighting, but he wouldn't say who with. Marie was horrified by the sight of him. She tried to care for him, clean his face, but Sebastian was high and erratic. He shoved her to the ground violently, her head hitting the wall so hard she could no longer see straight. Sebastian told her in that moment that if she ever touched him again, he'd kill her. She lost the baby that night. Sebastian told people it was because Marie was too weak to carry a child. After the miscarriage, they spent as little time together as possible. But appearances had to be kept. Marie's life was dictated by a man who despised her. I told her about my mother, about the small town I grew up in, about my aspirations to travel and to write. I told her about the grey wolf, and how whenever I tried to write, I could think of only that, until I met her. We talked until the sun started to rise, and then she came back to my room with me. By breakfast time, I was clear in my mind. I was in love with her, and I would not allow her to go back to a life of mistreatment and abuse. I was going to help her, no matter what it took.
So, I had a thought. How would you feel about going down to the country for the weekend? Well, it's actually a B&B down by Glendalough Lake. I know, it's a bit random, but Theo has been going on and on about the winter that he spent there in the 60s, and trust me, his stories are getting crazier. Anyway, curiosity got the better of me, so I did a bit of a Google search, and I actually found the castle that he stayed in that winter. It's been converted into this cutesy B&B. Oh, anyway, I contacted the owner and she gave me this great last-minute deal. So I thought, why not just go down and check it out? It could be fun, you know, playing detectives. And anyway, I think we'd really enjoy the alone time together. So, bit early for whiskey, isn't it? Everything okay?
It's Mum.
What happened? Everything okay?
Well, she didn't feel well last night, and this morning she fainted, so Dad took her to hospital. It's back.
No. That can't be right. She had a scan last month and they said she was in remission.
Well, it's come back quickly then, or the scan was wrong, or I don't know, but it's definitely back.
Nick, what happens now?
Well, she's got an infection, and because her immune system isn't working properly, they're going to have to take her into hospital for a few days, and then I don't know.
When did you find out?
This morning, Dad called me. I've been in hospital with them all day.
Why didn't you call me? I would have been there with you.
It's your first week in a new job. I didn't want to drag you away.
Oh, my job doesn't matter.
Of course it does. Jesus. Today was scary. They had her hooked up to all these wires and tubes, and she looked like a zombie, you know, like something that's already dead but is somehow managing to hold on. I think she's going to die.
Nick.
She's going to die. I can feel it. Not straight away. Too bloody stubborn for that, but this is going to kill her. I know it.
You can't think like that.
Why? It's the truth, isn't it? You probably know that better than the rest of us. She's going to get sicker and sicker over the next few months until she's eventually nothing but a walking corpse.
She's beaten this before.
Yeah, but death wins eventually in the end, doesn't it?
I'm sorry. Is there anything I can do?
No. Thank you.
When does your mum get to come home?
Possibly next week. They're not sure.
When she's home, I can help take care of her.
You have a full-time job.
I can do evenings and weekends. I can help.
That's too much.
I want to help. Please, let me.
Did I ever tell you what my mum said about you? First time she met you?
Oh, God. Don't tell me.
What?
I was wearing a pink leather miniskirt that night.
It was sexy.
Oh, I was so drunk.
You were charming.
I was so drunk. I remember having such fear the next day that your mum was going to tell you to run far, far away from me.
She loved you.
Why? Seriously, I made such an awful impression and your mum was so lovely to me.
She told me it was because you gave me a dig.
What?
Remember? We were in my kitchen, hammered after Ben's birthday, and she came down the stairs to make us cheese sandwiches to try and sober us up.
Oh, it's all coming back. I'd taken off my heels and I was wandering around your kitchen in my bare feet.
And you were wearing that god-awful Spice Girls t-shirt.
That t-shirt is great. I still have it.
And I said, no self-respecting woman should wear a Spice Girls t-shirt. And you elbowed me in the ribs.
Oh, it was a gentle nudge.
You gave me a bruise.
Oh, maybe you shouldn't have slagged off the Spice Girls then.
Mum knew then she liked you.
Because I assaulted you.
No, because you don't put up with anyone's bullshit either. I can never make you do anything I want you to do, but it drives me up the wall sometimes, but I do love that about you. Mum's like that too.
She's not going to put up with cancer's shit either.
I know.
She's going to fight.
I know.
Hard.
I know.
I can take the day off work tomorrow.
No.
I can come to the hospital with you.
No.
You've got to let me do something.
Take me to that B&B you were talking about.
No, that's really not important.
I want to go.
You've got to be here with your mum.
I'm going to be with her every day this week. My sister's up on the weekend. She can take over for a day.
You might regret that when you're down there.
Then we can come back.
Oh. Like you said, it's really not important. Theo's probably just pulling my leg, all this talk of wolves and murderers.
Well, I'd rather think about ghost stories than cancer.
Okay, if you're sure, I'll book it.
I am. Do you think this old guy really killed someone?
Oh, don't tease me.
I'm not, I'm just asking.
I don't know.
Did you talk to the wife?
she's not around.
Dead?
I think so.
But if he is telling the truth, why is he telling you?
Maybe the weight of it has just become too much for him.
Well, I get that, but why not tell family or friends? You're a stranger to him.
Sometimes telling a stranger the truth is easier. Their disappointment doesn't hurt as much as someone you loved would. I want her to be okay.
I know.
So, has Nurse Mary not got a sense of humour, no?
Not really, no.
I mean, I just saw that the tree surgeon had left his axe behind in the garden. I thought I'd play a harmless joke on her.
Yeah.
So I lay down in the grass. I put the axe to my side so it looked like it was poking out of my chest. I didn't even think it looked that real. There was no blood or anything. To be honest, I thought she'd laugh when she saw me. I mean, there was no need for her to faint. My family say I'm melodramatic. Speaking of my family, they're all coming home from their holidays this weekend.
That's nice.
Ah, yeah, they were in Spain. I was supposed to go with them, but then I got the flu the day before and they were worried that travelling would be too much for me. God, they fuss so much. They wanted to skip the holiday altogether, but I wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
But I did just hear that my youngest grandchild was sold into human trafficking. But he is the best looking of the three now, so he'll probably fetch a good price.
That's nice.
Is it?
Sorry, I...
Distracted.
Yeah, I was at the hospital last night.
Oh, is everything all right?
Not really. Nick's mother...
Your future mother-in-law?
Yeah, she's ill. Very ill, actually.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thanks.
And your fiancé, Nick,
Yeah,
is he doing all right?
he's coping, but it's scary, you know.
Aye. It's funny, I always thought the idea of death was much scarier than death itself.
We're actually going down to Glendalough for the weekend. Nick needs to relax, you know. We're staying in your uncle's castle. I think it's a B&B now.
Oh, sounds lovely.
You know why I like scary stories?
Why?
Because they're just stories.
Are they?
Well, they're not real.
Aren't they?
You like telling scary stories, don't you?
It's what I've done my whole life.
Did it give you pleasure?
Oh, immensely.
Why?
Well, because I write words on a page, and at first they're nothing more than words, but then someone reads it, and suddenly in their mind I've created a monster.
Why do you like telling me stories?
Do I tell you stories?
Well, you tell me about your uncle's castle, and about the wolves, and about the man you claim to have killed.
They're not stories.
No?
They're memories.
So you're saying you stabbed your wife's first husband?
No, that was a dream.
Okay. So you didn't kill him?
Oh, I did.
How?
Do you ever notice that bad things, now really bad things, always seem to happen in a storm? Perhaps the universe is protesting against the evil mankind is bringing into the world. The night Sebastian finally arrived at Patrick's castle, The wind was howling and the snow seemed like it would never stop. We lost power early on that evening, so we ate our dinner cold and by the candlelight. Marie and I spoke little to each other. We were nervous my uncle might suspect our romance, but he was too preoccupied. He was desperate to know when Sebastian would come. But he'd long since given up asking Marie. It was clear to Patrick Marie despised her husband and would only be relieved if he were never to arrive. That night, Patrick drank vodka and soon revealed the big secret he'd been keeping close for all these years. Sebastian had been a lot more than just a college acquaintance. The two men had been so close, they considered themselves brothers. They shared everything, even dark secrets. When Patrick was a young man, he had a short-lived romance with an actor named Timothy Wallace. Now Patrick saw their time together as nothing more than youthful fun. But Timothy had fallen deeply in love with Patrick. He began to send Patrick letters detailing the intensity of his emotions. And Patrick never wrote back. He wasn't willing to give Timothy the things he so desperately desired. So when Timothy threatened to kill himself, Patrick thought that was all it was, a threat. But the next morning, Timothy was found hanging on the stage of the old theatre he used to perform in. It was where himself and Patrick had first met. Now distraught and racked with grief, poor old Patrick sought comfort in Sebastian. Instead, Sebastian stole Timothy's letters, threatening to tell the police if Patrick didn't start paying him a yearly fee. Trapped, Patrick obliged. That is until the winter of 1964. Patrick was sick of living in fear. He no longer cared about the repercussions. He just wanted an end to Sebastian's blackmail.
So that's why he wanted to see Sebastian, to tell him he was no longer going to pay?
Yes, he wanted to confront the demon that had held his life in fear for so long.
And what happened when he told him?
Patrick never got the chance. It was nearly 3 a.m. when I heard the aggressive banging at the door. Marie remained asleep by my side. Patrick was passed out. I approached the front door cautiously, unsure as to what kind of creature would demand entrance at this hour of the night while a storm raged outside. Sebastian stood at the door. A heavy black jacket hid the bottom of his face, so all I could see were his sunken blue eyes. He shoved past me into the house. No explanation of why he'd arrived so late in the evening, or how he'd even got there. As he removed his jacket, I found myself staring at him, frozen in fear. He was the wolf. He was the creature who'd haunted me day and night. I no longer needed to imagine what he looked like because he was in front of me. He was more of a monster than I could have ever known. He snapped at me that he wanted to drink whiskey. He didn't care who I was, and to be honest, I'm glad of that. I walked to Patrick's drink cabinet in a trance, my heart racing with every step I took. My hands trembled as I poured his drink, the heavy whiskey splattering everywhere. I tried to compose myself, taking a breath to compose my nerves. That is when I saw it. The sleeping pills my uncle had given me all those weeks ago. He had warned me they were strong, never to take more than one. There were 8 pills in the pale blue glass bottle. Using the handle of a knife, I crushed all the pills and put the powder into Sebastian's whiskey. He grunted when I gave it to him, already sitting on the bed Patrick had had ready for him for weeks. He didn't ask where Marie was. He didn't care.
Did he drink it?
I waited outside his room for a while. At first it was silent, but then I heard a bang, followed by the smashing of a glass. I began to panic, terrified that Marie or Patrick would hear the noise and wake up. So I rushed into the room. Sebastian was on his feet, stumbling around, fighting death like the brute he was. I tried to guide him to the bed, but he swung for me, grunting like some sort of beast. I tackled him onto his back, wrapping my hands over his mouth and nose so that he was unable to scream. He fought against me, but the drugs had made him weak. His eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment, I think he understood. He understood why I had to kill him. Eventually, his stare went blank, and I knew he was gone. The wolf was dead.
What did you do then?
I am proud of what I did. That might sound monstrous to you, but I am. I killed for love, and for me that more than justifies my actions. But I didn't want to pay for Sebastian's death with my own life. I wanted to marry Marie and spend the rest of my days with her and not in prison. So I cleaned the whiskey glass, and I got rid of the bottle that the sleeping pills came in.
What did you do with it?
Oh, I took it outside, hid it in one of the trees that stood at the lake. I then got back into bed with Marie and waited for the police to find Sebastian.
Did you go back for it?
What?
The bottle. The glass bottle that the sleeping pills were in.
No. No, I left it there.
You sure you don't want to talk about it?
Mom? Not really.
Okay.
The owner of this place is creepy.
So creepy.
You know who she reminded me of?
Who?
The butler from the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh yeah.
All hunched over and talking that creepy voice. Hello, I see that you're both wet.
Stop. That voice freaks me out.
Perhaps you should come inside.
I said stop.
You think if we went exploring we'd find the master of the house?
I'd rather find Rocky.
Really?
Yeah.
Gold hot pants does it for you, eh? 10 years together, turns out I barely know you. Seriously though, what do you think we'd find if we went looking?
I don't know. Kitten-themed crockery, probably?
I think she might be a witch or something.
No, she's not.
I bet she's got Ouija boards and everything. Or she could be into voodoo dolls. Maybe she's making voodoo dolls of us right now.
No, she's not.
Bet if we went searching, we'd find jars of dead bats and frogs.
I'd rather find that than a blue medicine bottle.
What?
Well, apparently, Theo murdered Marie's first husband with sleeping pills and hid the bottle afterwards.
Where did he hide it?
In a tree, outside. And it's still there, apparently.
And you didn't want to go look for it before we went to bed?
I don't want to find it.
Don't you? Then why are we here?
I thought we should look tomorrow when it's bright.
Yeah, you're probably right. to the owner about Theo?
I did, when you were in the bathroom. She said she'd heard that he spent a winter here before he got famous. She knew nothing about a murder, but she hoped it was true, it would be good for business. And she asked if there was a missing twin involved. Apparently it's a theme that pops up a lot in Theo's books.
We could go look right now.
No, we shouldn't.
Yeah, you're right.
It's dark.
It was a silly idea.
I still don't get it.
What?
Why he killed him?
It's obvious, isn't it? He loved Marie, her husband was a dick, and divorce was illegal.
But it's still so extreme.
You're one to talk.
What's that supposed to mean?
Sarah,
What about her?
you tripped her up at the Christmas party.
That was an accident.
No, it wasn't.
She fell over those slutty heels she was wearing.
You stuck out your foot and she fell over that.
Oh, she was fine.
She was lucky not to break her nose.
Oh, maybe she shouldn't have been fucking flirty with you then.
I'd never cheat on you.
I know.
Do you?
Yes. Oh, I wasn't mad with you, okay? I was just irritated that she thought she could just take you away from me. Even if it was deluded, it made me really mad, okay? I'm sorry I tripped Sarah up.
Don't be. It was funny. She looked even more ridiculous in her backwards dress after she fell.
But I could have hurt her.
Yeah, but you didn't.
You never told me that story.
Oh, yeah.
The ghost story, the missing bride.
Do you want to hear it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Many years ago, a young couple fell in love. Both families were thrilled for the pair, so much so that the groom's grandmother offered her home for the reception. The ceremony was beautiful. All their friends and family attended, and they sang and laughed and drank long into the evening. At one point in the night, the bride suggested they play a game of hide and seek. So the groom covered his eyes and began counting to 100 while his guests went and found somewhere to hide. The groom searched and found his guests one by one. He couldn't find his bride. Everyone began to worry and helped the groom search for his bride, calling her name again and again. They found no trace of her. Eventually, they gave up the search, and the groom was forced to accept that the game of hide and seek was a ruse to leave him and run away from their marriage. He was heartbroken that he'd been abandoned by his beautiful bride, but he was left with no choice but to forget about her and move on. A few years later, the groom's grandmother decided to sell her home. As she packed away the things in the attic, she came across an old trunk she had forgotten about. So, out of curiosity, she opened it. Inside the trunk, she found the rotting corpse of a young woman, still dressed in a bridal gown. She even had a wedding ring on one bony finger. The groom's grandmother realized it must be the missing bride. She had accidentally locked herself in the trunk when she was hiding, and it wasn't clear if she'd suffocated or starved to death. Her face was frozen in a silent scream.
I want to go looking for that medicine bottle now.
Let's go. tree.
I think it was just the first one he saw, so it has to be close to the house. It's got to have a hollow or something in it for him to be able to hide a glass bottle.
You check the trees on the right, and I'll check the trees on the left.
Maybe we shouldn't be out here.
You scared of the dark?
I'm not scared of the dark.
Well, it sounds like you're scared of the dark.
You know what's scary? Standing in a forest looking for something that may or may not confirm a brutal murder that happened over 60 years ago.
Well, it was your idea to come out here.
I've changed my mind. I'm a woman. We do that sometimes.
Do you want to stop?
I don't know. Yes. No. Maybe. What is it?
Have you changed your mind about us?
What?
Do you still want to get married?
Of course. Why would you even ask that?
Because you find every excuse to delay it.
That's not true.
First it was your exams,
I was stressed.
then it was your job, now it's this fucking obsession with a murder that probably didn't even happen.
You wanted to come out here.
We've been together 10 years. It's not like we're rushing into things.
I know.
Then let's do something now. My parents have offered to help.
I don't want to take their money.
Fine. Then let's do something small, something we can afford.
I want a proper celebration. You know that.
God, there's no winning with you.
You said you love that I don't take no for an answer. That I know what I want and I don't care what anyone else thinks. Was that all bullshit?
We should care what your fiancé thinks.
That's not what I meant.
Just admit it. You don't want to get married.
I do, but I don't see why you're in such a bloody rush all the time.
Because I want my mum to be there. If we wait till we've saved enough money, she'll probably be dead. I want you to have your big day, but I just want my mum to be there.
Sorry. I didn't think.
Don't be it. I'm still processing that she's sick. I shouldn't have taken it out on you.
Do you want to talk about it?
No. I want to find this stupid fucking tree.
Okay.
Danny,
What?
this tree has a hollow. It's really deep though. I lean in. Will you hold the light over me?
Okay. What can you see?
But are rotten leaves.
Oh, gross!
Oh God, it absolutely stinks.
Oh.
Oh, well, there's no dead animals in here.
Maybe you shouldn't have your hands in there.
Wait,
What is it?
stop. I think I see something shiny. Oh, move the light to the left. Yeah, there. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely something shiny down here.
Is it glass?
Maybe I can't reach it. Move the light a little. I'll see if I can get further in.
Be careful. Is it the bottle?
No, maybe. Oh, nearly there. Got it.
What is it?
Oh. Well, I think it's just a plastic bag.
Oh my god. Oh my god. My heart was pounding. Oh, do you want a handout?
No. I'll push myself out. Oh, just a second.
What was that?
I was sure the old guy was pulling your leg.
Does it have a label on it?
Well, it's rotten away, but it's...
Blue. Just like he said. Is that...
Let's go inside.
As dawn appeared, I began to wonder if everything that had happened was nothing more than a nightmare. I thought for a moment perhaps I'd hallucinated the whole thing because of drink, the storm, and my obsession with the legend of the Grey Wolf. But I knew those were only comforting lies. Things I wanted to believe rather than the horrible truth. Patrick found Sebastian. He awoke from his drunken daze and noticed that the room's door was ajar. Now, I don't regret killing Sebastian, but I do regret letting Patrick find him. That's an image that will haunt him for the rest of his life, and that is something that he does not deserve. Patrick told me it was like seeing a ghost. His face was pale and his hands ice cold. He was afraid to touch him at first, afraid that whatever evil had killed him was still there in the room alone with him. I was never sure if Patrick knew what I had done. We never talked about it. He never treated me with fear or mistrust, but the fondness he once had for me was gone. I took comfort in the fact that Marie never suspected any wrongdoing of me, or if she did, she was too relieved to be free to care about what I'd done. The police spoke to her first. She told them of Sebastian's drinking, of his addiction to pills, and his endless, violent behaviour. When they spoke to me, I was honest. To an extent. I told them Sebastian had arrived late and unannounced, that he seemed erratic, agitated, and short of breath. I said he had arrived late, I insisted on this, and that I thought there was no need to announce his presence until the morning. Eventually it was agreed that Sebastian had died of a heart failure. Heart failure. Tragic. And quite convenient. I proposed to Marie that morning, and she accepted without hesitation. We were married before the new year, and I gave her the big celebration full of family and friends Sebastian never did. Patrick didn't come. I often wonder why. It's funny how quickly people forgot about the existence of Sebastian. Ours was a better story, I guess. With him, she was the unfortunate wife of an older, debt-ridden alcoholic and drug addict who'd mentally and physically abused her. With me, she was the wife of a young writer who had just sold the rights to his first novel. Life's adventures still ahead of them both, and their love for each other very much alive. It's a better story. And life is about having a good story. Isn't it?
Do you think that was actually a werewolf last night?
Nah, I think we just got spooked after we found that bottle.
Yeah. You're probably right.
But what are you going to do? Like, could it just be a coincidence that that crazy old man is actually telling the truth? And if he is telling the truth, I mean, he's in his 80s and his health is bad. I know murder is murder, but what chances are there of any justice if, you know, he'll probably be dead by the time it comes to trial? Would there be a trial? Imagine if we called the police, what would we say? This crazy old pensioner told us a story about how he murdered someone 60 years ago, and we stumbled on the one piece of apparent evidence. They just laugh at us. And if we're saying we believe Theo, are we saying we also believe his motivation? I mean, is it fair to be punished when he was only doing what he had to do to protect the woman he loved? What are you going to do?
I'm going to quit my job.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if Theo is telling the truth, you probably don't want to
It's
spend...
not because of Theo. I never wanted that job. I just took it because I had this stupid notion that I have to do everything on my own without asking for help or support from anyone. I've been so stubborn and ignorant, but I want to marry you, and you want to marry me. And it's got to be about us now and what's best for us, not me. So, I hate my job and I take it out on you, so I'm just going to quit and find something that makes me happy.
Well, that is great.
And I want to get married now.
Danny,
I
we don't
want
have
your
to...
mum to be there. I want that so much.
Me too.
So, let's just do it. You know, something small, something about us. Let's stop all this talk of wolves and murderers and start living our own story. But I want to go home now.
Me too.
Covered the country, promising a harsh and unforgiving winter, promising a harsh and unforgiving season. Jeez. My uncle Patrick had just returned from his worldly travels without a bride, much to my mother's dismay, even though he was well into his 40s.
That's a sight I haven't seen in a while.
Marie, my darling, I didn't expect you home until tomorrow.
I was always coming home today. Did you get your days confused again?
You said Sunday.
I said Saturday. That's how the package holiday works. Saturday to Saturday, remember?
No, but that doesn't matter. How was your holiday?
Oh, gorgeous. The sun was shining every day. The grandkids loved playing in the pool. But we missed you, my darling.
Oh, I missed you too.
I was so disappointed that you got sick. It seemed such a shame that you missed out on all the fun. How are you feeling now?
Oh, much better. Especially now that you're home. And don't worry, I got to have some fun of my own while you were gone.
What's that supposed to mean?
Well, a new nurse started on Monday. She was so young and nervous I couldn't help but pull a little trick on her.
You didn't.
It was just a harmless gag.
Oh, not again. So, what did my rotten first husband die of this time? Was it the evil twin, the ghost child?
The wolf and the sleeping pills.
You haven't told that one in a while.
Oh, it gets them every time.
So, was I dead this time too?
I only implied. Better let their imaginations run wild than bore them with too many facts.
You're lucky I'm not easily insulted. So, did she believe your story?
Oh, every word. Sometimes it took all my strength not to laugh when I saw the horror on her face. There were times she looked like she thought I was going to turn into a werewolf.
My husband, the writer who should have been an actor. So did you tell the poor girl you're not actually a murderer?
Not yet.
Oh, Theo!
I will. I'll tell her when she's back on Monday.
But back?
Well, this is the best bit. Do you know the way Uncle Patrick's B&B is now, or his castle is now a B&B?
Yes.
Well, she's going to stay there for the weekend.
Oh, and that's the end of your joke then, is it?
Well, I thought so too, but then sure, I gave the owner a ring, and she's a fan, of course. I explained the whole thing, and she thought it was brilliant. So, she's going to get an old medicine bottle, and she's going to hide it in one of the trees, in case the nurse decides to go looking.
That poor girl will have nightmares.
No, I'll ease her fears on Monday. She'll no longer have to fear the old decrepit murderer anymore.
You know, most men don't fantasize about elaborate ways to murder their wives' exes.
Oh, they do. But they don't have the skills to articulate it as beautifully as I can.
Is it too boring for you that Sebastian simply stopped breathing in his sleep?
He didn't deserve such a calm death. That monster deserved something much more gruesome and painful.
Funny. I find his death rather fitting. Dull and disappointing, just as he was. Anyway, enough of this. The grandkids are downstairs. I told them we'd do lunch.
Do you ever think about it?
What?
About how you would have done it? How you would have killed him?
Darling, I don't fantasize about these things as you do.
I know, but he was a rotten bugger.
Oh, he was dreadful.
So if you had to have killed him, how would you have done it?
I don't know. I don't have the same flair for dramatics as you do. I would have kept it simple, I suppose. Suffocate him with a plastic bag while he was sleeping.
Clever. Then it would look like he just simply stopped breathing.
I suppose so.
And what would you do with the plastic bag?
Hide it in a tree outside. But I've never really thought about it.
Clearly.
The kids are waiting.
Oh, of course. Let's go. I love you.
I know.